this morning. That's the picture here in Birmingham as businesses across the country with all eyes on the Bank of England.
OK, Jack, thanks very much indeed. Well, let's get the view of former advisor to the Bank of England and the Treasury and friend of the programme, Dr. Roger Gewell. Good to see you,
Good
Roger,
morning.
as always.
Good morning.
I tell you what struck me with that interview with Jack, right, is there is, and it's not to blame the fella from Elevate, but there is this general acceptance, isn't there, that if inflation is high, well, inflation is high, therefore this has to happen to bring it down. Well, that isn't necessarily the case.
And an acceptance of the gaslighting, frankly, that if inflation does move down, it's because they've raised interest rates. Well, no, we have, as I've said before, cost push inflation. It's not consumer driven. What that means is that consumers are not spending, so raising the cost of money and crippling them is not going to bring down inflation. And they know that from 14 rises, which have still brought it down only a teeny bit, 6.8 to 6.7 in the last month. But they're stuck in this fantasy, which the media and people are actually believing. I mean, it's a bit, when I look at it, it's kind of like looking at a wasp trapped in a room, and I wonder, can it open a window by itself? I don't think so, but somebody's opened a window. Now, last night, the U.S. Federal Reserve did not raise rates. And if they're smart, they won't raise rates today because that's their open window, and they can get out of that. And it will create a feel-good feeling. It'll create some relief. It will create some good publicity for this horribly beleaguered government. So I really do hope that they're smart and they don't raise rates today. They have no reason to. It's not going to bring inflation down further. This is inflation falling by itself, this kind of inflation. And it would have fallen, frankly, I believe, a lot further and a lot more if they hadn't raised all those interest rates and printed all that extra money they didn't need to.
I mean, we are an international outlier. It is now the highest inflation rate among G7 economies. What is your prediction of what will happen at midday today?
What will happen today?
What's your prediction?
I'm predicting, I'm going to be sort of an outlier myself. I'm going to predict 60% that they won't raise rates.
Oh.
And if they're stupid enough to go ahead and do it in the face of everything, you know, they've ruined the mortgage market, they've ruined the property market, they've caused millions of people to lose their homes, all unnecessarily, because they haven't brought inflation down. I had, Ellie, I had an email from a follower yesterday of a picture of a room that she rents in a house in Peckham. And it isn't a room I'd want my dog to go visit. And she said that this room now costs her what she could have had a lovely studio flat in Notting Hill for last year.
Wow.
So it's not just the mortgage market, but the rental market is driving people out of London. You apparently need 50 grand plus a year to live comfortably in London now.
Which is just not attainable for a lot of people, for most people.
Well, the average salary is about 41,000.
Yeah.
What is the situation with the economy generally, and what these pressures are doing to the economy? Because there's real concern, isn't there, that we are slowing down considerably.
We're flatlining, and we're going to continue flatlining for the rest of this year.
But all the politicians are talking about growth.
What can I say? I mean, it's all gaslighting. It's all hot air. Nobody's really believing them anymore. Rishi's 5 points just haven't happened. And that's why they could get some good news from themselves if they simply gave up this 0.25% or, heaven forbid, 0.5% rise today and said, we're going to give you all some breathing space. It would be a very smart thing to do. I say 60%. Part of me says that's ridiculous. Of course they're going to raise rates, because the Baileyoceros and his thick-skinned friends really believe, well, they're just stuck in something. You know, it's like when you realize that, you know, you're stuck in something terrible, like Sadiq Khan's ULEZ PR agent must feel at the moment. You know, you're stuck and you can't get out of it.
But they have got, the point is, they have got an open door. They've got an open door every month to say, right, and especially with inflation dropping marginally this month when it was expected to rise. Isn't that an open door?
That's an open door, but, you know, Bailey has slavishly followed the Fed the U.S. Federal Reserve through all those 14 rises. Now, you know that we've discussed this before, their inflation is different than our inflation. In the United States, they have their own energy supply. We don't. We're hung by Putin and international gas prices and all the rest. They also have what is called, what even the reports here from the Bank of England and others have referred to in the States as robust consumer spending. You don't see anybody spending robustly here, do you? Okay? So there's two huge differences, which is why when they raised rates in the States, they more than halved inflation. It dropped like a rock. And why when we did it 14 times, pretty much not a lot happened. So you're absolutely right. They have a great out, and they can say, well, the Fed didn't do it yesterday afternoon, and we're going to give you all a breather today. If they're smart, they'll do that. If they don't, they're dumber than I've even thought they are for the last year.
Okay. Roger, good to see you as always, not mincing your words. Thank you very much indeed.
He never
Thank you
does.
both.
Let's see what happens at midday, shall we? See if they heed your advice. Thanks, Roger.
Thank you.
Right.